Welcome back to Days of War, and it's time for a weapons showcase. I recently spoke to George Rivera, lead developer at Driven Arts, the company making this game, and he was nice enough to send me a full weapons list of items that are currently in the game, and a hidden treat as well. Right now we have the American and German weapons to look at, but now that the British forces have been funded via the Kickstarter, I'm sure we'll see more coming in that area as well soon. Right then, first up, and let's start with the rifle class, bread and butter of any World War II shooter, and for the US forces we have the M1 Garand. Once called the greatest battle implementation ever devised, the Garand just had to be in this game. Its opposing number for the German forces is the Kar-98, again very recognisable and an iconic rifle from the war. One disparity between the two, the M1 Garand is a semi-automatic rifle. The Kar-98 is a bolt-action rifle, so there is a little bit of difference between the two. Perhaps the Kar does a little bit more damage than the M1's bullets do, just to balance that out. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Both of these rifles, though, will come with the option to fire grenades directly from the barrel, which gives the rifle class a little bit more firepower and the ability to destroy objects. Next, we have the SMGs, and naturally, these two fit right into the idealistic setup for a World War II shooter. For the Americans, we have the Thompson submachine gun, and the Germans, the MP40. Both of these weapons were adopted into use during the war in 1938, the Thompson being originally designed back in 1918 and was rarely seen without its drum mag previously, and the MP40 being a relatively new design that featured heavily in the hands of the Axis powers on the Eastern and Western fronts. I'm not sure if you've noticed yet, but damn, do these weapon renders look good. We knew the game looked good in the first place, it's running on the Unreal Engine 4, but here, these renders do look absolutely awesome. Coming in classified as auto rifles, we have again two very iconic weapons, the BAR or the BAR for the US forces and the MP44 for the Germans. The BAR served briefly in World War I as a replacement for the Hotchkiss machine gun, but only really came into use during the final few months of that war. World War II saw a much bigger demand for BAR rifles within the American ranks. Regularly, soldiers were sent out into combat with the older 1918 model, which was infamous for not working properly, and weapon parts couldn't be interchanged with the newer A2 model. That made things a little bit difficult. The MP44, more commonly known as the STG assault rifle, was introduced late into the war as a companion to the standard infantry rifles like the Kar-98 and SMGs like the MP40. It's also considered by many to be the world's first assault rifle, but I'm sure the Russians have got a thing to say about that. Moving on to snipers now, which is my favourite bit, we have the scoped Kar-98 for the Germans and the Springfield rifle for the US forces. The scoped Kar-98, as the name suggests, is just simply a modified Kar-98 with a telescopic sight on it. During the war, the Germans had to manually modify each rifle that they wanted a scope fitted to. The original design wasn't made to accept an additional sight. And I think by the end of the war, over 130,000 of these rifles were converted to include a telescopic sight. That's quite an achievement. The Springfield was the standard issue rifle for the US forces at the start of World War II, but it was succeeded by the M1 Garand in 1937 when finally the supply of that rifle caught up with the demand. The scope variant played a big part in the last few years of the war. From 1943 onwards, it was used in every theatre of operation by both the US Army and the Marines. But in comparison to other marksman rifles of the time, the Springfield wasn't a favourite of the US soldiers, and there are many reports of soldiers picking up foreign weapons from the Japanese or the Germans and using those in favour of the Springfield because they were more accurate. Now, the MGs. And I'm sure these picks come as no surprise to you whatsoever. We have the German-engineered MG42 and the US-born M1919 Browning. Starting with the MG42, what do I really need to say? Between 1200 and 1500 rounds per minute, portable when equipped with the right gear such as a closed drum magazine and a bipod. It even forced the US Army to produce training material to help its soldiers deal with the trauma of facing it in battle. This weapon was really dangerous in the right hands and caused havoc for many of the Allied troops during the war. The Browning, however, was a much more complicated weapon to use, usually requiring a 4-man team to operate it effectively. You needed a gunner to fire and hold a box of ammo, an assistant gunner who carried tools for repair and ammo, and 2 more ammunition carriers. The Browning was too heavy to move, which forced designers to tweak the weapon throughout the course of World War II, eventually arriving at the A6 variant, which was designed to be a light machine gun, rather than the mounted variants that came before it. Up next is the Rocket class, and this one confused me a little bit when I first heard about it, but now it seems much more simple. The US forces get given a bazooka and the M1 carbine, and the Germans come with the Panzerschreck and the M172 Mauser pistol. Heavy firepower here, and along with the sniper and MG classes, Rocket will be limited to its appearance in the games. Only certain numbers of players can run with these classes at the same time, with rifle, SMG and auto rifle classes being unlimited in their appearance. Just before I show you that special edition, all US soldiers will come equipped, unless otherwise stated, with the M1911 pistol, a knife and a grenade. The same goes for the Germans, but their sidearm will be the Luger. That special edition though, well, George gave me a sneak peek at the British faction. He sent me this, the full in-game render for the Sten Mark II submachine gun. This will be the submachine gun available to the British faction in the game, which as mentioned, has now been fully funded. There's only 2.5 days left on the Kickstarter, and we're just shy of $10,000 away from securing the Russian faction added to the game as well. If you haven't pledged yet and you want to, there's a link in the description to the Kickstarter, but do remember, this is currently an unfinished product, so it's your decision if you want to pledge your money or not. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of the weapons down below in the comments, and while you're down there, drop me a like as well. But until next time, my name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.